106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
Let's tidy up this tangle of film by putting it on a reel. Here is a motion picture film, 1,000 feet, 16,000 separate photographs.
Welcome, everyone, to the official space section of the chart.
What's the truth? You can't handle the truth.
Sir, you're out of order.
Out of order. I show you out of order.
All right, so Laura, first things first. Here on the show, we're big fans of origin stories, like Wolverine origin stories, superhero origin stories.
Yeah.
There's one girl on the show. Emily's the only girl, so she's the one who puts up with all of our nerddom and all that ridiculousness. But I like an origin story. I like knowing how people were like, one day you were doing this, the next day you're like, hey, I'm going to work in film.
Yeah,
and it's and everyone knows that like. You run off to LA to be in the film world,
yeah.
Right? And like I like showing that you can run down the street in Manitoba and work in some of the same scale films, doing some of the same things. So, and it's a smaller market, but it's niche market, right?
Yeah.
We all know each other. It's Winnipeg, obviously, but I'm kind of interested in like, okay, what were you doing like the months before the film bug bit you?
So I was, let me just think about the timeline here. I was working, oh my God, what was I doing right before that? I think I was working at like the movie theater, honestly,
really?
Which is funny because
which one?
Cinema City, when it was Cinema City.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah.
it was the one on McGillivray. So, we were the second run theater. So all the like big movies that would come out, we would get the second run. And it was cheaper, so yeah.
$2.25.
Yeah, it was so my
$1.25
goodness.
Tuesday nights, right?
I know, and even as cheap as 75 cents when we'd get these little coupons. So it was pretty crazy. So
inflation.
I know. So I was like, I wanted to go to school for fashion, and that's kind of like where my sights were headed. And I looked into going to Ryerson in Toronto, and then
That's a big.
Yeah, it's a big fashion school. And so. I went there, did the tour, but, I wasn't quite ready to, like, leave Winnipeg. And I feel like a lot of people feel that way.
I've never left. Well, actually, that's a lie. I did, but I came back.
Yeah. So I feel I wasn't really ready. So I kind of explored different programs here in Winnipeg. So it actually turns out that my mom was a teacher, and was a teacher at Oak Park High School.
Okay.
And the film...
where you went to school?
No, I went to Shaftesbury, so it was kind of down the street.
You Charleswood people.
I know. So it turns out the film teacher at Oak Park, James McClellan, who is actually a filmmaker in Winnipeg.
Sure, yeah. Shout out.
Hello. He actually told my mom that there was an opportunity for an internship on this series in Winnipeg, and I had no idea that film was really a thing. And this was like in 2010. So I was
before the industry's really clipping here.
Right. So I was like kind of out of high school, and I was like, what next kind of thing. And, fashion kind of wasn't huge in Winnipeg. And I'll say that like, Nygaard was like the biggest
Slims.
Well, yeah, that was like the biggest like fashion retailer in Winnipeg, and it was kind of like where people would go if they wanted to do that. Anyway, so I got this opportunity to interview with Leslie Oswald, she was the PM, the production manager on Less Than Kind season 2.
I love that show.
So I went in not even knowing like what I was kind of getting myself into, and I was like, hi, like my experience is this. I worked at a movie theater, and I also like am interested in clothing and fashion. Like, this is what I have to offer. And she's like, okay, I think like, you would get the job. And I'm like, okay, great. So when do I start? And, I worked with Charlotte Penner and Maureen Petkow were my first interaction with film. And then, season 2 of Less Than Kind. And then honestly, never looked back. I loved it. Like literally the moment I went on set, I think was when I was like, this is really cool. Like, I want to come back. I want to do this again. So I kind of, And then after I did that internship, I actually went to school. So that's when I started my program after.
So this was just to be like, hey, if fashion doesn't work out in Toronto, maybe making clothes for people on screen.
Sure. And then I kind of like, I did that. And then like did the school thing, and then after I was like, I don't know if film is like gonna be enough for me to make a career out of it in Winnipeg, because it was still kind of like not really like we would get 2 or 3 projects.
It's a gig.
It was, and we would have 2 solid crews that everyone, it was either this crew or that crew. And, and I was like, where do I fit into this? So eventually
that crew.
So eventually I was like, you know, a few years down the road, I would do like my, you know, some permit gigs. I would get like day calls and all that stuff, and then eventually it kind of just took off. Like, yeah,
the industry or just
like me,
your drive.
My drive and also my career. I think it was like, it kind of snowballed with like a commercial after like there was a kind of a dry spell. I was doing these day calls, did a commercial, and then ever since then it was like nonstop from there, like full time.
And that was what do you think, around
2016?
Okay, yeah. And I've been at United since 2012.
Yeah.
And I remember, the once a year phone call, I'd get like super excited. I know. And so I can't even imagine for you, because like I'm just a vendor. You're working in it. You're trying to get paid, right? Like it's and it's the unknown.
Yeah.
That first day on set, I'm a nerd for all this stuff. So every time I'm on set is a first day for me. It'll never die, right?
Yeah.
But you've now been on so many sets moving forward, but that first day, like because there's so many intangibles.
Yeah.
Right? Like is it the hustle and the bustle? Is it the making pretend? Like what was it for you that you could see yourself doing outside of just the fashion thing? Because you all love film at the end of the day.
Yeah. I think it was like, you know, I operate well in like organized chaos. So I think it was just like, you know, everyone was kind of buzzing around and everyone had their like specific role that they were doing. And like just like the fast paced environment, I think is what I liked. And at that point, and I'll never forget, at that point, I didn't really know like the hierarchy with film and like the people on a film set. So
yes sir, no sir, 3 bags full sir.
Yeah. So I kind of
2, ma'am. Sorry.
Exactly. So like I remember, you know, there's like that, you know, chain of command and like who you can talk to first, and don't look over there, and don't look in their eye line, and don't look at that, and don't stare at them, like don't talk. So there's all these things. And I remember, I'll never forget this, and I kind of still talk about it to this day, but Doug Mitchell, who's actually...
Douglas Mitchell.
Yeah, he's
done the show.
He's a well-known director and first assistant director in Winnipeg. And I remember going up to him, asking him a question, and I think he was so like thrown back that I asked him, because he's like, who's this permit? Who's this like daily?
What are you doing here? Don't look at my eye line.
And then he kind of looked at me and was just like, I think you're good at this job. Like kind of like, wow, she really like kind of had the courage to come up to me and talk to me when she probably maybe shouldn't have. I don't know. But it was, ever since then, like we've actually talked about it to this day. I'm like, remember that day that you were so like eager? And I was like, I was eager.
Where did that go?
So no. I'm like, do I still have that eagerness? Anyway, but yeah, well, I'll never forget that moment. It was kind of like, you know, the start of something, like a spark, I guess. We nerded out with him too. And yeah,
he's a lovely individual. Yeah. So everybody I hear him say, everyone who I hear say his name follows up with some lovely anecdote about the man.
Yeah.
So is Less Than Kind, like, would Less Than Kind be your first? Because I mean, you're a permittee, right? You're doing an internship. What that show specifically, that was a beauty of a run. I mean, it got 3. Did you just do the first season?
No, I did the season. So after Maury Chaikin passed away, I was on that season. So basically, the season opened with the funeral. Yeah. And that's the one that I started on.
So what did you learn? We'll talk about how funny that show is after. But what did you learn? What was one of the first lessons as an intern that you still use today, maybe?
Oh, this is embarrassing. Okay. So in the costume department,
take us behind the scenes.
So I I kind of approach it a little differently, but maybe some people like then maybe had like different
strokes.
Yeah.
Folks, yeah.
So our fitting room was like in the office, okay, and a lot of the time, like I like to take the fitting room out of where like the hustle is because so many people are moving around. It can be distracting, and like it's a very personal thing to have a fitting with an actor. So when I was like in the room sitting at a desk, and I remember they were fitting one of the actors, and she came out in something, and I had said, "That looks nice," and I remember them looking at me being like, "Shut up," and I'm like, I'm like, "Oh no, should I not have said that?" So I'm like, oh no. Okay, so now I know never to comment ever again. So ever since that moment, like I have been like in the back of my mind, I'm like, don't say it. And I do still
First lessons.
I do still take that. Like if I'm in a fitting with someone, there's a time and place to say like, oh my God, that looks amazing on you. Because it is a very like vulnerable position that you're in, and
Being
like
touched and it's intimate.
And it's a body thing. And, and like I am very cautious with what I say and how I go about complimenting someone, or, maybe if they see an insecurity that I don't. But like, anyway, yeah. And I do notice that on set too. More people like kind of one of the set etiquette rules that you do learn is like, don't comment on the way an actor looks, because it might be something that could be like triggering, or maybe it's like maybe they like have blood covered all over them, or maybe they're made to look like old or like tired or sad. So it's like
they're the canvas, separate from the
so
person.
like maybe don't say what you want to say, unless maybe like if it's a local actor that I'm like good friends with, I'm like, okay, you look great. But like if it's someone who like I'm like, okay, maybe just don't say. So that's like one rule that I've kind of kept, like, don't say it. So that's
well, it makes sense, because maybe they love it, and you guys are like, no, that's a bad idea, and now they're married to that idea to help them get the character.
Because it's in the back of their mind, right?
Yeah.
So it like if you're kind of drawing attention to it, then it's like, oh shit, like maybe I do this, So I kind of like to be very, subtle about those kind of things. But
sure.
Yeah.
I've never, I've talked to a few costume designers, and we've never talked about the intimacy that comes with like, I've always been like, okay, so you made this and you thought of that, and and where did you get inspiration for this, like all of the creative aspects of it. But I've never been like, oh, so when you're fitting Bob Odenkirk, and you're trying, now you're knowing him or whoever as intimate as their partner is, or something, right? So that's, you guys have a whole different playground, I guess, to work with.
Yes, we do. Yeah, we do.
So when, like you said, scattered jobs, right? One here, one there. When did it feel after the commercial? What was the thing after the commercial that you were like, I'm in it, I'm doing it?
Well, I think, okay, I will kind of circle back a little bit before this commercial.
Let's go on a journey.
The one show that stood out to me that I like absolutely was like, yeah, this is kind of my thing, was Todd in the Book of Pure Evil. So I worked
first Eli Craig.
Yeah, so I worked
with Jason.
Yeah, so I was just like a daily on that. So I helped out.
No small parts.
With the I shouldn't say that. I was a daily. I helped out with Sandy Soki on set, and we were doing like a lot of the like the stunt work, and I was helping with like the blood gags and the squibs and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And that's when I kind of like, the whole world of like creating these wild costumes kind of came to light. I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like reading that script must have been just like bananas, because it's like, okay, so this cheerleader turns into this massive
Where are we going?
werewolf thing. And I'm like, huh? Like, these kind of things. So I was just like, this is really cool. And just watching special effects do the gags and all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I think this is like the direction I'd want to go in. That being said, that kind of like, was a really fun experience. And then we went to Snowman's, which was my first costume designer role.
Is that Renee Zellweger?
No.
Oh, sorry. I know what I'm thinking, and okay. I know what I'm. Yeah.
Wasn't that New in Town?
That was New in Town. Thank you.
Yeah.
Her and Mr. Williams.
Yeah.
Snowman's is our favorite, our bread and butter in Manitoba.
Yeah.
Hallmark, I believe.
Yes.
Or Life Channel, or one of the many, right?
Yeah. It was like W Network, I think it ended up on. But Doug Mitchell was the director, so it was kind of a full circle moment, I will say, for him and I, because that moment that we had on set where it was like, I think I like you. I think you're going to go far. And then we kind of circled back to that being like, look where we are now.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what happened? It was like, so that was his like first like directing of a movie. And then that was my first role as a costume designer. So how wild was it that we like the world's
still kismet.
I know.
Say,
and
right?
I think, that's when I believe like everything happens for a reason, but so grateful to have him be the, director on that and be kind of the driving force of that movie, because he's like, I trust you. And that was like, okay, I know that this is like the best setup that I could ever ask for. And then it all just exploded from there,
Well, and like the cool thing is, I mean, you're both kind of doing this thing for the first time, right? So getting to come back and just kind of like, you have like a sounding board for where you've started to where you've been. And a lot of people who take a step into a career that they don't really know anything about, I imagine you're usually alone, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you got your friends and you got your family, but there's nobody else around you, specifically in a world where you're all strangers every single time.
Absolutely. And I will say that was like one of the hardest shows I've ever done, because it was like me and one other person and we were running around. Oh my goodness. I can't believe I did that. Like, I'm just like looking back on it. I'm like, how did I do that? Safe to say I'll never do that again in terms of like the setup and like the crew and like how we were like running around. Like, never again will I do that.
You don't know what you don't know, right?
Exactly. And I just jumped in, and when people ask me like, what's the hardest show you've done, or like what's the biggest, I'm like, honestly, it's those small shows that kind of give you those tight budgets and the tight timelines and the small crews that you are like have to be the most creative with all of that stuff, because
you gotta stretch it.
You gotta stretch it, and you gotta try to find things from every angle and use your time wisely and all that stuff. So those are kind of like the challenging ones for me, because then when you get to the big ones, they're like, here's the money, here's the crew, here's the thing, and I'm like, okay, this is lovely. So that's where, and I'm not to say that they're not hard, because they definitely have their
everything
challenges.
has exactly
yeah, but that's where I'm just like, okay, I feel like I've set myself up for this. So like, I can safely say to people, I did not walk onto a show and I was not given this like as a handout. Like, I can safely say, like, I started at the bottom
a bit.
and then I worked my way up.
Now we're at the top.
Here. Yeah.
Drake,
so,
okay.
So, so yeah.
Let's take a minute, because we're here right now, so we might as well talk about it.
Yeah.
Hallmark's W Network.
Yeah.
A lot of that stuff comes through here. I feel it's like, okay, if this is the place to make it, it's got the talent.
Yeah.
It's got the look.
Yeah.
It is cookie cutter. It is, right?
Yeah.
Like we all know.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of Hallmark, though, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like I have a mission to watch every single one and review it on the show eventually.
Mm-hmm.
There's not enough time in the world, even with their streaming network now being out there. But it's I as a vendor, when I see those titles show up, I'm always like, I'm thankful that you guys have that, because that's in between the big shit.
100%.
Right? So it keeps you working. It's
100%.
like, not everything is going to be a temple. Not everything's going to be Marvel. Not everything's going to be John Hamm like in September. But like, it's in the newspaper. I can say that.
Yeah. We should talk about that. Actually.
We can. But the Manitoba film industry, like you did it here. You could go to Vancouver. You could go to Toronto.
And I did.
You have.
Yeah.
But you've come back here. Family and friends and comfort, all that aside. What is unique about Manitoba film that you've seen Toronto? What's so different? Why is it? What do we got?
So I actually
besides you,
I actually moved to Vancouver for 2 years. So
okay.
I did work out there, and I will say Manitoba we have such a good crew, And I think that we're slept on sometimes, which is sad to say, but our locals are some of the most talented people that I've ever met. And like, you know, we come and go like working with each other, but eventually we always find our way back to each other in the nicest way. And I think that like that's just so great about Winnipeg, because we have these people that have been working in the industry for years and years, and we've gone through so much together that I think that that's where it's like other places don't have, because the turnover for film in other places can be huge, because when you're working in a big city like Vancouver, you have those busy times where you don't have enough crew and you have to pull people off the street. So whether they stay or whether they like sink or swim, basically, you know, you're kind of working with that revolving door of crew.
Sure.
Where we do have like a little bit of that, but like not nearly as much as you would say.
Well, when it does get busy, like in anything, everybody pulls, right?
Yeah.
Like you got to find what you got to find.
Yeah.
And I mean, that sometimes can be a curse or a blessing depending on the day. But I know everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And that Winnipeg aside being so small, but like you guys are very tight, like from watching on the outside, like everyone knows everyone knows how to work with everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think where you're always like, the bigger the film, obviously the less intimacy you have amongst crew, because now you've got 500 people, whereas normally maybe you have 75, right? So, but it's always like a 75 person crew in Winnipeg, because Winnipeg is only a 75 person city, right? Like it's got that blessing in it. Plus at the same time, like, yeah, you're right. You guys have to be ambassadors for this province in so many ways, because it reflects who comes here. And it's cool to watch how much you love it just as much as you love what you do.
Yep. Yeah. And like, I will say, like, I did have a director, like I was talking to a director and I said, you know, Winnipeg, you know, you're like, I'm glad you guys chose Winnipeg because we have a fantastic crew. Like, we're all so, you know, we're so on it, and, you know, we can be close knit, and we've worked together many times. So we're familiar with each other. And he was like, well, do you think that that's a good thing? Because does it allow you to like think outside of the box? And I said, honestly, I've grown up playing on teams for a long time. And the more that you get to know each other and get to know like what you're capable of, it just makes you want to go even further. And not to say that you can't do that with new people and get new ideas and learn new things, but I think it just allows you to challenge yourself with these people. And that's kind of what I see, the benefit that I see.
What does this director have to say to people like Martin Scorsese, who just keep going back to
working
the well
with Leo
and De Niro, right? Like,
I know.
Like it's about a rhythm.
It is about a rhythm, 100%. I don't know. While I do agree with that, yes, you learn new things from new people. It's just so refreshing to work with the people you know are going to do the job that they're going to do, and they're going to do it great. So
yeah, you have a history.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas, in metropolitan cities and the big towns,
it's a trust thing too. Like, there's a lot of trust in this business.
So we've got a base. We have a little bit of an origin. We know where this superhero came from, so to speak. Who has been, let's get into the creative side of this.
Yeah.
Who are your inspirations? Who do you pull from? Do you pull from the same ones every time and find that like you're doing a lot of horror, but you're pulling from these people because it just so happens? Or like where does your creative inspiration come from?
Honestly, like, okay, so I'll tell you this. What kind of got me into film is when I got into fashion, I didn't really want to be like a ready to wear designer. I just didn't want to be like, oh, I'm going to like make clothes for a runway and people can wear it one season and maybe the next season. I wasn't drawn to that. I was more drawn to the runways that were like a spectacle, like art, like a signature line, never or couture. And like not necessarily ready to wear, like that had a story. And I think like Alexander McQueen really nailed that, and I love him and what he did, because everything that he did had a story, and it had an idea behind it that he like. It started like, you know, he did a whole line of jackets that were inspired by like Jack the Ripper, which was like so cool to me.
That's fucking cool.
And what he did is he would take locks of hair and sew it into the lining of the jackets as like an homage to him, because that's what Jack the Ripper did.
He'd take collector's items,
right.
essentially.
So he did this, and Alexander McQueen has this book called The Savage Instinct, and he did a whole line based on that, and a lot of his stuff also like centered around like the Baroque era and the Victorian era. Like he pulled a lot of inspo from that, and a lot of his stuff was controversial too. So when he would do these runways, they were controversial. Like he would have models walk down the runway that had like blood that would just splatter all over them for no reason. You're like, what? Like, where did this come from? So I wanted to I'm like, how can I do that? But like, you know, can like that takes a lot to, you know, do that. But how can I do that in like a different medium? And I'm like, film is like, that was like my next, like, okay.
I'm sitting here being like, so I have to do it one time and it's got to tell a story and I don't have to ever repeat it again. Sure, I'll do that.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, well, I think that's the next best thing. So that was kind of like my inspiration. And like growing up, you know, watching movies, you know, I grew up kind of in the Disney movie era.
What's your Disney jam?
I loved like Beauty and the Beast.
Of course.
You know, that was a classic. Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, Aladdin, like those kind of things.
We present your dinner.
Yeah. So, I mean, looking at those and seeing, you know, how those cartoons actually like come to life on the big screen, I think is like super inspiring. And you know,
it's funny how you can't really give credit to Disney for costume design.
I know.
But yet, like Belle's gown, right?
Like iconic.
Right?
And like Snow White.
Yeah.
And
like it only gets respect if Alexander McQueen went and did it.
Oh, right.
But like no one gets credit for the person who drew.
Yeah.
Which is how you get from page to runway.
Right.
I watch a lot of my mother's a huge sewer,
right,
and crocheter, and Shauna loves what's the runway show?
Project Runway.
Project Runway.
Yeah,
that is constantly on repeat in this house. So like, I'm always I don't have an eye for it. I'm not saying that. I'm just there's a lot of caution around me is what I'm saying. What were we saying?
Yeah. So, well, I will say to that point, you know, when I was in school, whenever we would have like a theme attached to something we would design, that was something that I was really good at. So it was like, okay, well, we want to make this jacket, but the theme has to be, well, I don't know, like based on like an animal from like, or like something from National Geographic. So like make something that's like kind of is inspired by this image and make it into like a jacket or like a corset.
It's really cool that you figured that out. Like to know that how you like to create is in the medium of film.
Yeah.
Because most people would just go to the runway and get the line and the label.
Yeah.
And want to be known as like, you know, Lady Gaga's designer or something like that. Like that's the true.
Yeah.
That's where fashion usually pulls people.
Yeah.
I always find people who, costume designers specifically, are like you celebrate.
Yeah.
All styles.
Yeah.
And you have more focus.
Yeah. And also, one of like probably the coolest moments I would say to this day, my parents would take us to LA a lot, and we'd go to Universal Studios and do some of the backlot tours. Not just Universal. I think we did Warner Brothers, Paramount, and so whenever I would go there, it was kind of like you know, being in the movies and on the sets. I was like, whoa, this is like really cool. Like I think I like this. And then when Violent Night came out, I actually found out through a friend that the costumes were on display at AMC Theater at Universal City Walk.
So your work.
My work was there. And I literally, like, she sent me a video and I opened it and my heart stopped. And I was like, oh my God. And I started to cry. And I was like, what just happened? Like,
You're being celebrated somewhere that you have no idea.
And I know. I'm like, why didn't they tell me? But anyway, I was just
because you don't own those things anymore.
I know. Yeah, not mine. So I was like, this is like probably the best moment. I'm like, okay, I think this is when I know I'm like, yeah, I think I made it. Like in
You're on a walkway somewhere where people are going, I know that.
And
oh, that's cool.
I know. And then I actually went to go see it, and I'm standing there taking pictures next to it, and they're probably like, this woman's a super fan, I guess. But I'm like,
really big Santa
I
fan.
made these. Like, this is me. So that's when I was just like my designs were in the same world as like someone, the designer who did like Dorothy's costume from Wizard of Oz, like, or like I Love Lucy, like down the street. I'm like, what? Like it was just such a trip for me.
You're kind of hanging out with icons.
That I was just like, okay. I had to be like, okay, this is really cool.
Yeah, that's I made it moment.
Yeah.
That's I fuck around and find out kind of thing.
I mean, yeah, that was so. Anyway, that was kind of like a cool moment for me. So, back to, I guess, getting the inspiration. We can go back to that.
No, you've got it, because I like that I now know that the way your brain works is it is project specific, right? It is throw a theme into it. How do we celebrate the elephant in the costume? How do we make Santa a Viking, right? Instead of just making Santa, how do we make Santa a Viking? Which is why I think it looks so fucking awesome. We'll get to 87 North and Leach and McCormick in a second.
Yeah.
They're big fans of this town, it seems.
They are. They definitely are.
I think they've realized a great place to make awesome, fun action movies on the cheap. So,
yes,
and we're not going to say no.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's your process. Everybody paints with different colors and different textures and different styles. So we're here because Clown in a Cornfield is out this weekend. It is your most. It's not your most. The thing you're working on a thing. You've got another thing coming out. Then another thing's coming out 6 months later. Like,
oh my God.
Like you're hitting it, right?
Yeah.
So, what was your process for Clown in the Cornfield? Because it's like middle America and horror at the same time. So you get to make it bloody, and you also have to keep it contemporary. Yes.
So I think like what we kind of wanted to do was, since it was kind of this hometown, homespun vibe, and creepy at the same time, because everyone's kind of like obsessed with this clown that, like, why? So
you like syrup.
Yeah. And so
I have a hat upstairs.
Yeah. You do?
Yeah.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. And I've been wearing it for so long, and no one knows a fucking thing about it except me. So this weekend, I'm going to put the hat on.
And I'm
going to be like,
this is Friendo.
Bay Pen Syrup Company.
Yeah.
And this is fucking Friendo.
Yeah. So we wanted to, the origin behind the Bay Pen. The
graphic novel, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So Adam wrote it. Amazing writer. So basically the origin behind the Bay Pen syrup, I believe, started in like EST, like 1920s, I want to say.
It feels very like, 1920s.
So my first, my first idea was, when I was researching it, was I wanted to like see what clowns were then. I was like, I want to see like what the circus kind of had to offer in the 20s and the 30s. So I did a lot of research around that, and saw that these costumes were like so, nowadays, like the clowns are very like circusy, very kind of like colorful, very geometric, very bright, and tassels, pom-poms,
Bozo,
all the Bozo the clown. And I was like, I don't really want to go down that contemporary road of clown, because it's seen a lot. Like we see the clowns a lot, like when I'm thinking about these costumes, I'm like, I want it to be a Halloween costume, okay? So I go to Spirit Halloween, and I did, and I was like, what's on the wall here? And I wanted to see kind of what they were like. This is a clown costume if you want to dress up as a clown. So I kind of was like, hey, I don't want to do any of that. So I went back, looked at the circuses from like the 20s, 30s, and I was like, okay, how can I create something that looks really kind of creepy, that someone's like grandma made for them, and like they like sewed it for them, and maybe like
it's in like a chest of drawers somewhere.
Yeah, and it's been like in like the teak on it, and like the like patina on the costume.
Now you're speaking words I don't get.
Okay, so like the wear of the costume, like it looks like it's been like dipped in coffee, or like it's got some miles on it. Yeah, it smells like grandma's basement, essentially. That's kind of what I wanted it to be.
Someone I know once said that's how a wine tasted, and I went, how the fuck do you know what grandma's basement tastes like?
Ooh, anyway. I would not like that wine. So, that's kind of what I wanted, and I wanted the red and white stripes because it is very Americana, and the story of like in Clown at Cornfield, like it's that small town America.
It's like a folklore tale, right? Gone dark.
Yeah, and can I like talk about? Sorry, I'm just gonna say.
You can do whatever you want.
Can I like? I don't want spoilers. Like, can I say things?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, I guess
don't ruin the movie, but you can tell us whatever you want.
I'm not gonna ruin the movie, but I just
it's only the first episode where we ruin a movie for people opening weekend.
No. So, I want to say like I wanted to keep to the the Americana feel, like the Midwest, and just it be like with the touch of blue, and then. Obviously when you see the blood on the costume, it's a little bit like, blood on the flag. So that was kind of like
interesting
what we wanted to do. And when I saw this still of Friendo doing one of his kills, we obviously know he kills people. So that's not a spoiler. It like so menacing, and just the blood on here with the stripes, and I was just like, whoa, this is so symbolic to what's happening in the story that I'm like, okay.
Well, and you've got your juxtaposition of like America's kind of burning right now,
right?
And this coming out after Fucko's 100 Days of Stupidity.
Yep.
Is he Friendo? Is Trump the murder clown?
I mean,
did you see this coming?
Oh my God, this isn't going to be like a Simpsons predictability movie.
If it is, it'll make us so famous, and I'll love you for it.
Oh my God, yeah. So it could be some symbolism. I don't know.
He looks great in the trailer. Like he looks fantastic. Yeah. He's very vaudeville.
Yeah.
And at the same time, the scariness is because it's from Spirit Halloween. The scariness is because I know it.
Yeah. And I think that with the mask, and I can't take full credit.
Do you work in tandem with the prosthetic design and that? Like, how does that work with you and them?
Right. So the production designer actually and the art director kind of work together with the director, and they kind of talk mask.
Okay.
And I do have a say, because obviously, like when
it has to compliment.
Yeah, and when I'm coordinating the colors of my costume, like I would like
to have
Why is this
violet?
Yeah, exactly. So I kind of like when I worked with my concept artist, I kind of gave him.
This is your sketch guy?
Yeah, Keith Lau, shout out, he's great.
Yeah.
And so
takes a village. We want to know all the people.
Yeah. So when I gave him like the ideas of doing Friendo, I was like, okay, here's kind of the concept of the mask that they're thinking. So when his art came back and I showed it to the director, he was like, holy shit, this is like kind of how we want Friendo's mask to look. And so at first, the first run of the concept was like kind of more menacing and a little bit more scary, intentional scary. So
it's so good.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So we still wanted him to look like the logo, but in a bit like his eyebrows were a little bit more crazy,
like drawn on like a girl who accidentally took hers off by accident.
Right. But when you see those like masks from like the early 30s and 40s, that they're not intentionally supposed to look creepy, but they're creepy as fuck.
Yeah, it's because they didn't have. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, so it's like they took like cotton batting and just like glued it on, and you're like, what? And and it just looks eerie. So I think we wanted to make it look eerie, but still look true to the logo. Kind of like when you look at a porcelain doll where they're like so sweet, but like really they're staring at you the whole time. That's kind of what we wanted. So I kind of feel like the tweaks from the concept sketch was what made the mask. and I wanted it to look as like happy but creepy as possible, and I think that's what we did.
Mission fucking accomplished.
Yeah.
Like when I heard this story, everybody was like, "You're gonna love this. It's a graphic novel." Is there pressure when it's a preconceived IP? Like, do you feel that you should? Because I mean, let's be honest. In today's society, a lot of what's being made by studios are it's got to have a backing, right? Like, we want that baked in audience.
Yeah.
So taking something off of a page that has fans that can come for you, right?
Yeah.
We've seen it. Is that pressure for you, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, it's funny because they asked the same question to Eli Craig in Calgary this weekend about like what's the pressure of doing that. And I think when I was talking to Adam, like the writer, about like his idea of Friendo, I was like, is this kind of what you thought? And he's like, honestly, it's better than what I thought. And I was like, okay, great. Like I knew I did that. And I actually, like, when we go back to the roots of like where I start, my mom is actually a writer. So she's a novelist. So she writes novels. And so a lot of her job is to, so a lot of her job is like character development is like a very important thing. When
I hear that's a good thing in storytelling.
Yeah. So when I get the script and I, read the characters, I actually shoot back and forth with her being like, okay, so they tell me about this person, like how deep would you go with this? And like, we go back and forth and talk about it. And she helps me do that. And that's where I think my strongest.
She gives Friendo character for you to create costume.
Well, yeah. So I think my strongest, skill with that is, the character development and just getting like deep into where they come from. And I learned that kind of from her because, just talking it out. But yeah, I think the pressure of that is like everyone has their own idea when they're reading a book. Like I'm a very visual person. So when I'm reading a script, the first thing that comes to my mind is like, oh my God, what does that person look like? Like, what are they doing? What are they wearing? Where do they shop? So that's kind of like, it's
so interesting that you do that as a costume designer.
Yeah.
Right. Where, I mean, I this is my ignorance showing, correct me if I'm wrong, but you work in tandem with the director's vision, what's on the page and all that stuff. But essentially at the end of the day, I don't know how many other people do this, but it's cool that you take the same approach as a writer to developing a costume that a writer does to a character. That's most people are like, well, what will the cloth look like, right?
Yeah.
Like I just need that, and that's where I'll play. But you're like, no. I need to know their thoughts. I need to know why their whys and their hows and their whens and all that. That's cool.
Yeah,
that's a cinephile.
Yeah. So yeah, especially with with Violent Night with.
Mr. Harbour.
With Santa Claus, it's like
you costume big men. Kevin Durant and David Harbour are both,
and Will Sasso.
Okay, and Will Sasso.
Yep.
Fuck.
Yeah.
That's a list.
Yeah. So, like, and big shoes too. Like,
sure.
Like size 15. I'm like, what? Like, So, anyway, I mean, with David Harbour and with the Santa, it was like, how am I gonna make Santa look different but same? But different. It's like it's kind of like you're creating something that already exists. It's already great. Like, how do you make it better, or how do you make it your own?
Well, there are a lot of makeup artist. Her name's eluding me right now. I'm so sorry that you probably worked with on Violent Night. Christy. Thank you. I was just getting that. Yeah. Were there a lot of ideas because that Santa? I mean, was he always rooted in like Viking? Mystique, was that always his lore, or did you have other ones? Because that costume is very like battle ready.
Yeah.
Right. So was there maybe like a mailman Santa, or like, or was it always rooted in?
No, it was always rooted in Viking.
Okay.
The Nordic element was always there, and we were kind of going more back and forth about like just how Viking he was going to look, because they wanted to still kind of keep classic, like, the Coca-Cola Santa, like they wanted to kind of keep the classic image of what Santa looks like.
Yeah.
Because, when you look at like the Christmas Chronicles.
Yes.
Right, and then
Kurt Russell, Goldie Hawn. Yes.
Yeah. And then when you look at oh my gosh, what else am I looking at? There's like another movie that came out kind of close to that, like the Red One.
Red One with
Red One.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, with The Rock and J.K. Simmons. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
$300 million flop.
I know, I know, and I'm like, how the hell did that cost $300 million? Like,
Amazon, they don't care.
I mean, we made a $23 million movie, Violent Night, and it was awesome. Like,
it's fucking epic.
Yeah, like
it's
what?
Too much fun.
I know, and you know the best part about it, and what I admired about it, is that the story was so great in terms of like there wasn't a massive ensemble of cast. You just had this great group of people who delivered like an amazing performance, and we had these great kills that were so planned that were just like, okay, like this makes sense. When you do something like, you know, those big kind of egregious films, sometimes you get lost, the story gets a little lost, and like, you know, with Marvel, like it's so big and
fucking
epic.
Massive. Yeah.
So I just think that like these stories need to be told more and still have this kind of crazy like action element. Like we can still make a cool movie and it you know, the story still makes sense, and it doesn't have to be this massive production. Like it doesn't.
I totally agree. I'm more about like I've reached my peak of tentpole.
Yeah.
I'm more about like a little like insanity's great, absurdity's fun, dick and fart jokes work, right?
Yeah.
But like
of course.
just ground it a little bit more.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be intergalactic and multiverse and
No.
world spanning and building, right? And that's the beauty of Violent Night, is that it's I consider it a Christmas classic.
Yeah.
Like it's when I heard the tagline was Die Hard but Santa, I was like, okay, that right there had sold me. Were you got a lot of iterations of the suit when you were making it? Was the first crack at the idea?
Yeah.
Was it solidified? Like a lot of sleepless nights? What was it?
Like I wouldn't say sleepless nights, but I would say like the first crack was a little bit more like rustic, and then we kind of toned it back because we really wanted to keep to the like, you know, the nostalgia of
you get the
Santa.
Big chest, like the fur pieces, right?
Yeah.
And then but like it's I don't know how to explain it, but it's not Slovakian, it's not Cossack, but it's European-esque.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's but it still looks like you could go out to the club in it. Like it, you know what I mean? Like it's handsome, but dated. I don't.
And I think we wanted to kind of have like a little bit of a sexy element to it.
It's not hard when you have Harbor.
Yeah. So that kind of leaned in there. And I think like, you know, it was more about like the fabrics and stuff for me, about what was the most important.
What's it made out of?
It's leather, actually. So the
hot.
jacket is leather, yeah. But good though, because we were shooting in like -40. So he thanked us after, and I think even like a Variety interview or some interview, he was like, I was really grateful that the costume was warm, and I was like, yes. So like I didn't
function and form.
You didn't freeze, although John Leguizamo froze a little bit more. I'm sorry, but but the costume was cool.
His end kill is fantastic, getting sucked up the chimney.
Ooh, yeah, and he just is obliterated. So yeah, like with the Santa coat, there was like the little details that we kind of made it his own. So like the trim on the bottom, like by the fur, had like Nordic, like. Symbols actually like engraved into
like his
the jacket.
tattoos kind of matched it too. Like on the second watch I was like, oh, he's got a backstory.
Yeah,
it's not just like swinging a big fucking axe or a stone or something.
Yeah, so the jacket actually has the symbols. We burnt them into the leather, and each symbol is like a symbol for like I think one was like for hope and journey and power and like all these things that kind of embody him, and that's what we did. And I don't know if people picked up on it, but it was subtle, but it was super cool. And like in the belt we etched in like some Nordic kind of symbols and shapes.
This
and stuff
vest
like that.
you made too.
Yeah,
like it looks like he just stepped off the battlefield.
Oh, it's a battle piece for sure. And the guy who actually constructed the vest, his name's Guy Anthony, also local creator. He actually makes like he wraps like motorcycle seats and stuff like leather.
Oh, cool.
But he actually used to work in film, and he would build like leather pieces for people. He actually did the reins. He built the reins for Santa's sleigh.
Oh,
so
nice.
he did those too. But when I commissioned him to do these vests, I showed him the picture. He's like, "Whoa." I was like, "Can you do this? Do you think you can do this?" And then he was like, "I'll see." And then when I got it, I was like, "Oh my God, I couldn't have been happier." And it was like an epic piece of clothing. Like I couldn't believe it. And I broke down one of the vests, like just to make it look old and aged and kind of worn and lived in. And I worked with my breakdown artist, Grant, and he kind of helped. We kind of did it, and he helped with the jacket too and did all the breakdown for the show and made it look like he had
1,000
wearing
years
it for
of war.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
children asking for presents had been, yeah, no, that movie's really great to look at.
Yeah.
Like, and like everybody too, you've got like, you had a bunch of people you got to play with,
Yeah.
right? What's her face from Christmas Vacation?
Beverly D'Angelo.
Thank you, Beverly D'Angelo.
Yeah.
She must just be a treat. Oh, okay, we can stop there if you want.
Well, she was definitely had her opinions about things.
Sure.
And I actually
How do you navigate that? Let's talk about that for a second, because you're coming up with an idea. You're working with a third party, the director. So then you've got somebody who has input,
Yeah.
as all actors do, right? Let's take the high road here. So, how do you solve that? How do you solve the thing that you're super responsible for how they look?
Yeah, it can be kind of challenging when people like have an idea in mind, and also
Opinions are like assholes.
I was not there for the fitting. I had to do it over Zoom.
Oh,
So
that's not fair to you.
No. So basically what we had to do is I had a shopper in LA who had to go and buy everything in LA because I couldn't leave. I couldn't go. And, with COVID and all that stuff, because we were shooting in COVID, I had to get her to shop, get her to fit over Zoom. And I was on the Zoom call basically watching the
That's hard.
fitting happen. And it was really hard because for me, fittings are a very personal thing. As I said before, that's kind of where I build my rapport and make the connection. So when I got her in person, I was able to sell her the rest of the costume because we had to get a jacket for her and all this stuff. And I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this, and it's going to be great. And then she was like, oh. So it was kind of like, it was challenging because I wish that we could have had that in person to be like, I think you should do this because this is why. And I was a server for many years, so I sold things really well. I was a good salesperson.
Guacamole?
Yeah.
Sullivan nod, make them agree.
Yeah. So I really take that opportunity to build that rapport and make the connection and make them trust me. So that was challenging because, I wish I did have that in person. What we came out with was great. And I think that, she really felt great in it. And it was like a power suit, which is where we wanted to be eventually.
It was a power suit.
Yeah. So where we wanted to be. So, we got kind of the best of both worlds. And I think everyone was kind of happy in that sense. And, I think that we, it was
You
great.
got it done.
Yeah, we got it done.
So,
Yeah.
practicality comes into play with both of these, but specifically for Clown in a Cornfield, at least Santa's got some stagnant scenes where he's not always ass kicking, right? But Friendo by design, I believe BJ Verreau was in that costume.
Oh my God,
BJ, me and BJ went to high school together.
Oh my goodness.
We go back to grade 7. So
Oh.
yeah, I love that guy.
Yeah.
So when you're working, when you're doing something like Violent Night where one guy's getting the shit kicked out of him, so I'm sure you've got 4 or 5 versions of the costume, right? Ready to go in case of accidents. But when you're dealing with practicality, where like someone has to be able to be agile in it, like how do you take that in consideration and balance what needs to be seen on screen versus tricks of the trade, or where does it meet?
Right. So I think with clown, I think what we needed to do was, when we got the budget, we had to be like, okay, what can we build that is the most practical, that we can build many of them and in a short period of time. And I think that's kind of where the jumping point was. And also we had to make sure that these costumes could also withstand blood, running, sweat, possibly fire, explosion.
Yeah.
So all those things you have
the
to
usual
take
suspects.
into consideration. So, I had to be like, okay, well, what fabric do I have to use? And like, what can, people fit stunt pads under and all this stuff. So, those are the kind of challenges that can be. And, with like the Santa costume too, like we had to get natural fabrics so that when the fires did happen, we couldn't have polyester on him. Like, no.
Sure. Yeah.
So
does he burn up? Is there a burn scene?
In clown?
Yeah.
Or, there's an explosion.
Okay.
Yeah. So anything that we have to.
I'm waiting for the day that they light that boy on fire.
Yeah. Like, well, no one got lit on fire. Nope. No one got lit on fire. So
that one PA.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it was just like, what could we do that could we can produce a lot in a small amount of time, with the amount of fabric that we had too, because that striped fabric we actually eventually had to recreate because we only had, I think it was like 50 yards, and it was like upholstery fabric. So like it was basically for a couch, but it worked. And then we had to recreate it. So we had to actually get it printed because we needed more. So
with the kids, the stuff I've seen with the kids, where did you draw inspiration for that middle America hometown feel? Because you don't want to go too hard in either direction, right? You don't want to make it too fantastical with the clown suit and be like, this is not believable.
Right.
Well, at the same time, I mean, are we today?
Right.
We're not 80s, we're not 90s in this, we're today?
We are today. There is a line that she does say in the movie being like, whoa, this town seems like it hasn't changed since the 90s. Like I've transported myself back to the 90s. So luckily for me, everything in the store when we were shooting was like 90s-esque.
Great.
So like I went into Urban Outfitters, 90s. Everything was brought back. And I was like, Y2K, 90s, yes. Like this is perfect.
Thank God for no originality.
Exactly. So I think for me, like when and I love doing these kind of like campy, like horror, but like, a bit of like the cliche, like Breakfast Club kind of style.
Sure. Yeah.
So that was kind of like, you have the jock, you have the pretty girl, you have the nerd.
You like a little cliche.
Yeah. So, but also I wanted to keep it realistic. Like I didn't want it to be a costume. Like, oh my God, he's wearing this like this Letterman jacket that like, even though he does wear a Letterman jacket, like
but not a Letterman jacket.
A Letterman jacket, like one that he does play football. So I wanted to like go. I actually went to the mall and I was like looking around at what the kids were wearing, and I was like, okay, what do these kids wear? And a lot of them they all look like carbon copies of each other. And like, wear the typical like
it's safe
sweatpants, Uggs, and t-shirts. No joke. Like, and I wanted to make them a little bit more original, but also like what they could potentially buy in their town. Nothing was like super expensive. Nothing was like, oh, it's $300 pair of jeans. Because what people will do in movies is like, these actors will be like, they have to be rough and ready, but really they're wearing a pair of $400 like AG jeans or like something crazy. And I'm like, we're not going to do that. We're actually going to put him in Levi's or Dickies because that's what he would do.
Well, I was going to say with the heyday, I think, is gone for suspending disbelief. I don't think the generations after us know how to walk into a theater, turn your brain off, put your phone down, and let it do its job. And more people are picky and like, that's not right. And they're looking for plot holes and all that stuff. So, I mean, not only with the story, but as a costume designer, you have to be like, it's unrealistic for Dolce & Gabbana to be in this town.
That's right. And I think there was a whole controversy about that with, Blake Lively's movie that...
It Ends With Us?
It Ends With Us.
I saw it.
Yeah.
Did you see it?
I did. I did watch it. And I think that when you... there was a lot of people, and I was watching a lot of people review the clothing, and meanwhile, I think the costume designer did a great job. I think, Blake had a lot of say in what she had, and when I saw what some of the people were wearing, I'm like, but would you be wearing these Christian Louboutin boots? You're a florist. I'm confused.
That I had the same fucking question. I was like, you have a very expensive closet, Miss florist owner.
Right. And I mean, I think the only...
Lily.
I think the one person that could get away with that is Carrie Bradshaw. I mean...
That makes sense because she was a fashion column sex writer.
Right. And I think they were trying to do that, which... Again, it kind of took away from the relatability, I think, to it.
Sure.
And I think when I was doing thinking about these kids, I was just like, what are kids gonna go to the theater and be like, oh my God, this is so cool. I have this at home. And I want them to say that because it's real. It's the real deal.
Yeah.
I don't want them to be like, oh my God, I want to be like this character, but I can't afford that. What? It's just not realistic to me. So I'm going to the stores that these kids shop at and I'm buying that. I'm going to Forever 21.
Sure.
I will. And she would wear this shirt. She would buy that thing. She would look ridiculous at the popular girl Janet would look ridiculous at a barn party. She would wear leather pants. Come on. And wear the stupidest shoes. Cause I would do that.
Sure.
And so that's kind of where I went with that.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but you have all these ideas. Your work, every department has their working relationship with the captain, with the director, right? So you've worked with Eli twice.
No,
wasn't he on Tucker?
No,
sorry.
That was Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm confused. Yeah, I'm confusing the two. Also, if you don't know, Eli Craig, everybody, he did a movie called Zombieland.
Oh, he did Zombieland.
I did it all on my own. Zombieland.
Right. Okay.
That was where he started to get noise behind him, right? This guy is a good horror director. He can have some fun with some stuff.
Yep.
He's good at bringing the campy and the comedy and the horror all together.
Yeah.
And again, David Leitch, Kelly McCormick, 87 North. It seems like you get a lot of freedom.
Yes. So with Universal, it's a little bit different, but
that must be nice.
Yeah, but Clown in a Cornfield definitely
that's an IP, so you've kind of got to.
It is, yeah, but it is really great because it was basically me and Eli, and the producers did have, obviously they do have a say. You send it up the chain, but
sure.
It was me and him being like, what do you think of this? And he's like, I love it. And I was like, great, we're going to roll with it. Whereas with the Hallmarks, where it gets challenging is 10 people look at it and they're like, we don't like the lapel width on this. The buttonhole isn't right. All these things. And I'm like, oh my God, really? And I pay attention to detail, but I think that it's just so great when people can trust you. You've hired me to do this job. You want me to design the clothes. Trust that I know what I'm doing. And that is what, with Eli, when I showed him everything, that's kind of once we did the clown and then everything else, it was okay, I know what you want. I know what we're doing, and we could run with it. But yeah, with Violent Night, they do these things called checklist meetings, kind of right before they shoot. And they kind of go over everything. Every department kind of making sure the production design, the books are right when they send it off to the network. And the head of Universal, what is his name? Peter Kramer?
At the time?
Oh my God, who was it?
Let's find out. Head of Universal in 2018? No, 2020.
2020. Oh my God. What is his name?
Right now, her name is Donna Langley.
No.
But head of Universal Studios before now.
Pictures, would it be? How would you?
Oh, like you? Okay, all right. I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
We'll find it for listener after. We'll fact check it. But go on.
So, I wasn't in this checklist meeting, but basically he had said like the costumes are some of the coolest original costumes that I've seen in a while. And I had the production manager run to me after, the production designer ran to me after and was like, he said this about the costumes. Well done. And I was like, oh my God, what? And Renfield was shooting at the same time. So I was like, yes. Woo. I was like, I did it. So I'm like, I don't know if he says that to everyone, but I will say producers and like CEOs, people don't just say things for the sake of it. They'll say it if they mean it.
Yeah, and I mean in an industry where everybody's saying something to get hired, I mean there's a dark side, there's an underbelly, right? Whatever. But and I mean a lot of people shine each other around, but yeah, at that level, no one's saying shit.
No. Just
for the sake of saying shit, right? Like he's not getting anything out of you.
No.
So it's genuine as it can be.
Yeah, super.
That's
great.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool. But
well, you're hanging out next to AMC Classic Costumes. The head of Universal, whoever Peter it is like it shows. Like you're getting trusted by Universal, by 87 North, by who was it? Lionsgate that's doing Clown in a Cornfield, or is that also
Temple Hill Productions and RJLE Films. Oh my God.
I'll bring it up.
Or oh my God, Temple Hill is the production.
Sure.
And then the other one I can't remember.
Tell you right now. Temple Hill Entertainment and Rhea Films.
Okay.
There's your two top of the line ones.
Yeah.
How was? I mean, weekend listener, go out, check out this movie while you're listening to this. Make this your plans right after you're done listening to this episode. But you were at the Calgary Underground Film Festival, right? I got that right? Mm-hmm. And it premiered there. Yeah. How's it premiere?
Oh, my goodness.
It looked like a lot of fun.
Okay, so it was great because I will say we had a double feature. It was the 15th anniversary of Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Oh, so
we watched it first. And honestly, I haven't seen it in so long. That movie is brilliant in every way. The everything about it is perfect. And so we watched that first and the audience was amped. So I think we got a good audience, which is so cool. And everyone was there because they loved horror and they were just so passionate about it and ready to watch. And it was a trip because, I actually forgot some of the beats of the movie. Because, again, my brain isn't really in it.
You moved on.
Right
You're
now.
on Silent Night, Deadly Night right now. So, where are you, right?
So when I watched them, I'm like, oh, my God, yeah. Oh, yeah, this happened. And I was kind of, shocked. But, listening to the audience reaction is, the best thing for me. I love it. It's
confirmation.
Absolutely.
That sound is addictive.
Yeah, and then just, the eruption was just oh, my God, this is so cool. So... yeah, it was really, really good and good feedback. And, somebody did ask me, we had a Q&A after, and someone did say, what are the pressures of, designing something that could potentially be a Halloween costume? I'm like, well, a lot of pressure. But
I think that's the biggest compliment to any costume designer is your costume is now a Halloween costume.
I know. And I'm just honestly, the best compliment. It's the best feeling.
That and being next to AMC Classics, I think it's few and far between.
Yep. That is pretty cool.
I think that's so cool. When you wake up one day and you find out that Breakfast at Tiffany's and the Santa suit are in the same row, you're like, what pinch me, right? I guess I'm doing something right. Mm-hmm. Why'd they choose Calgary? Was that
for the film festival?
Yeah, I mean, nothing against the Underground Film Festival, but was it just that was the Canadian premiere before this weekend, or was?
I don't know. I think it was just the timing for the film festival, but also they had their first, I guess, American premiere would have been at South by Southwest.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I saw that.
And then they were just in Brooklyn on Tuesday, and
I saw that as well.
They did that. So I think they're doing their rounds. When I was talking to Katie Douglas, who's our lead, she was saying that she's going to a few places to do the different premieres. I think they were doing New York, LA. Maybe today, I don't know, but they were kind of going all over the place.
Who was Friendo?
Who was Friendo?
Who was Friendo at the festival?
I don't know. I think they just hired somebody. Yeah, they just hired.
You look tall and lanky. Come.
Yeah, but we actually had to make more costumes. So they reached out, like AMC reached out to me because they were doing a bunch of promo stuff for the show, for the movie, and I had to make a bunch more costumes for the promotion. So they had like
we're not done with you.
No, in New Orleans they had like a parade, and they dressed a bunch of friendos up, and they were like in this parade, this like horror parade, and they're like, can we get 5 more costumes? And then we want 1 for Calgary, and then they're going to travel around the U.S. I'm like, what? So you
can just like pump them out?
And we made 6 more.
That to me, like when someone can ask you to do your talent on a dime like that, like if someone was like podcast right now, I'd be like, nope, I need a minute. But like for you to just, and like, cause you're on, like you've moved on. We were talking about this before we recorded. Like you are in the moment when you're in the moment, but with film, it's a year later.
Yeah.
It's 2 years later. Sometimes it's 5 years later, depending on the problem. So like, I can't imagine where you've got to now like, okay, I got to turn this part of my brain off. I got to go back to this part of my brain. What do I remember? Like that must be fun. While at the same time challenging.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when somebody came up to me after and was just like telling me about the costumes, and I'm like, yeah, I was like 2 years ago. They're like, what? 2 years? And I was like, yeah, it seems like a lifetime ago, but it was, 2023 is when we shot it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you think in bunches of like, hey, I'll be doing that for 3 months, then I'll have 2 months off, and then I'll do this for 6 months, right? Like time can move pretty freaking fast. So with everything that's going on with Clown in a Cornfield, you're working on the reboot of Silent Night, Deadly Night. That's like what, 78, 79, I think that maybe came out.
Yeah, I thought it was the 80s.
Is it
but
the 80s?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm more than likely wrong. I do that a lot. I mix names and dates up. But
No, it's okay.
Working with a reboot, right? You've done an IP. You've done something that you kind of got to copy. Is there something that people are going to, like, did you watch the first one? Are we going to see things maybe in the costume department that are throwbacks, or things that you pulled from, or Easter eggs, or is it new from the ground up?
No, you know what? I did watch the first one, and I watched a bit of the second one, which is a little different. But
I believe this is Quentin Tarantino's favorite Christmas movie, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh my God. I could see that. I didn't, like, I think with Santa, maybe, but I don't want to give too much away.
Sure, yeah.
But I think we wanted to make it our own, because I think this one is going to be darker. It's going to be darker. Darker
than a boy and killing people in the original one, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, like I think that the the first one, it was so like, when like video games lag, it was kind of like that. Like when you like
that's a great comparison.
Like he shoots someone and they're like, 1, 2, and then the squib or something. So I'm just like, no, this is actually gonna be like, I think a little just like more dark and like sinister.
Okay.
I think than the first one. I mean, obviously him killing people is dark and sinister, but like just the mood overall, I think is more.
And the intention and the setting behind, like it's campy, right? And it's that 1-2 cut where it's going to be more cinematic, obviously.
Yeah.
Do you get brokenhearted in horrors when you get to see all your hard work just get stained and cut and stabbed? I asked this of every costume designer, because you get so married to these ideas, you've created them, they'll live in infamy, but like, they're going to get fucked up.
Yeah, I mean, I do, because I'm like, there's certain scenes where I'll like, do this elaborate thing, and then it's like, it gets destroyed, and you're like, oh no. But honestly, it's fun. It's fun. I build it with the intention of it getting messed up. So I'm like, let's see how far we can go with it. Like, let's fuck it up. Like, so yeah, it is kind of like a little bit weird, but at the end of the day, like,
you have to kill your babies.
Yeah, there's always going to be another one. Like, there's always going to be like one that's still all together, I guess.
We mentioned this earlier, and I'm just like, is it Kevin Durant is a huge man, man. And is there a perfect size for a costume designer to work on? Like, is it easier to like? Do you thrive with tiny little people? Is it more like is there a perfect size and scale to a person to like 5'7", 180 for a guy, and then for a woman like is?
Well, it is funny because like one of my one thing that I've actually gotten a lot better at over the years is that like I can look at you and be like, okay, you're this size, like
I would imagine so. Yeah.
Shirt, like your shoes probably this size, and like I can kind of be like, okay, yes,
that's your party trick.
Yeah, and it's so funny because when I was doing the fittings for Silent Night, Deadly Night, we were in the fitting room, and Rowan Campbell, who plays Billy, looks at me and he goes, how does it feel to be so great at your job? And I was like, come on, like, no. And he goes, like, everything fits, like, amazingly. Like, what? Like, how do you do that? And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I guess I just know what I want and know what I like. And I'm really aware of how things fit and you know.
Well, that's like a cinematographer being like, I know what lens I need at 90 feet.
Right, exactly.
It becomes second nature.
Yeah. So when you're buying like, you know, these jeans like a couple times, or like you're really familiar with brands, and that's why I shop a lot, because I need to do research. So that
retail therapy.
Retail therapy. Yeah. And so I'm very familiar with kind of like how things fit and brands fit, and I have to know that.
Yeah, sure.
So
it would be weird if you didn't.
No,
actually.
Exactly. So, I don't know. I think that like when I do a Hallmark, I feel like in terms of fitting people, it's probably the easiest, because like you have the actors that literally walk off the street and they're like off the rack.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, like a Carhartt jacket for a guy, and you know, like a fleece sweater, and a pair of boot cuts. You know, like you're handsome and you're pretty, right? There's not a lot of depth to that,
right?
But at the same time, it must be fun though, right? Because
the alterations part, luckily I don't have to do that. I have great people and talented people who can do that for me. I know how to do it. I'm just like,
sure, yeah. You got more important things to do.
I do. So, but yeah, like it definitely can be challenging when you have, you know, people who like, especially when you're making something quite custom for someone and they're coming in 2 days before they go to camera, and you're like, oh my God, the moment of truth. And that's kind of what I had to do for Violent Night, with some of these costumes for like the, I think it was like the soldier, or I guess they technically like
the combat dudes with the guns.
Yeah. What did we call them? We called them, what's the name for them? Why am I blanking right now?
SWAT?
No, we called them like the henchmen or whatever.
Okay.
I guess you would call them that.
Yeah.
So I kind of had to pull the trigger on
pun intended.
Oh yeah, sorry. I guess I had to make a decision. God, make a decision on these costumes like before Christmas, because I got them made overseas in Vietnam.
Oh, okay.
From Siam Costumes. So they were like, okay, you have to tell me what we're doing before Christmas, and I'm like, okay, like we have to make them in this size, and then we'll tailor to fit like when we get them. And so when I did that, I had to do it for John Leguizamo as well, and I was like, oh my God, I hope this fits. And that was the only one we had for John. And I'm like, if this doesn't work, I am screwed. Like, I don't know. But he tried it on, walked out of the room, and he goes, yeah, this is it. And I was like, oh my God, this couldn't be any better. So, you know, there are those moments where it's like pretty great. But yeah, like, you know, when you get these actors with these like wild sizes, and sometimes they might not be right, and you're like, oh, but
yeah, I mean, there's, you know, XYZ camera, XYZ light, XYZ angle, you know, that's there. You are multiple shapes, multiple sizes. Things change. Things are like it's a living thing until it's not.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, there was this lovely speed round I included at the end.
Amazing.
And it's the first time we've done it. I like it. I think we're going to continue it.
Okay.
So this is your lightning round, listener, for the first time. What's the first costume you ever made? Do you remember it?
Oh my gosh, that I ever made.
You made.
Like me personally?
Doesn't matter if it was on a set, if it was something that you were designing on your own. Like, do you remember the first thing you made and you were like, that's pretty cool?
Oh my goodness. I'm like trying to like cycle back in every single thing. It like for a big build, it probably was Violent Night.
Okay.
I will say like probably in the big, like in a big production
when you're getting
aspect.
into definitive costume as opposed to just dressing somebody for camera.
Yeah, I think that was probably like the first moment for me.
That's pretty iconic. The Santa suit is your first, like, here, design a costume, but not only design a costume, but everybody's seen this before. Make it different.
Yeah, that was, I will say, I'm going to say that.
Sure.
That makes the most sense.
And you can watch it right now, listener, on Netflix.
Yeah.
Favorite horror movie costume of all time?
Oh, probably Ghostface.
Yeah.
That and...
It's so simple, but it's so good.
It is. And it just the way it moves. And I think like, it's so funny because I actually, and this is actually like a funny thing. So growing up, I obviously like didn't see Scream, like I didn't see Scream like the...
Were you young when it came out?
Yeah. So
I've learned not to ask a woman her age now on this show.
No, that's okay. That's okay. So I didn't see it. I actually saw Scary Movie before I saw Scream. Okay.
And then you're like,
so
where's this coming from?
So that's like the context, right? So I saw this Ghostface mask all the time, like around Halloween. So at school in elementary, the kids would come to school with Ghostface, and you know the ones where the blood like pumps through the mask. So those are the ones they had, and I was like, "What is this?" And obviously, like the inspiration was drawn from a painting.
Yeah.
So that's where I kind of was like, "What is this?" Like So when I saw the costume, I was like, "What the like? This is so weird. Is this like a fake? Like, did someone just make this or what?" But like when I saw it for the first time, I was like, "Oh, okay. Like this makes so much sense." So yeah, I would say like that one would stick out for me. Probably the most. And then I guess the second two would be like Freddy Krueger. Yeah. Yeah.
And like, again, simple in design. Jason, a mask and coveralls. Freddy, a sweater and pants and a claw, right? Like it becomes synonymous because of the character. And again, the way you design costumes, I wouldn't be surprised one day that I'm like, I'll see a costume designed by you and be like, I know it's you because you care about the story of the character and how the costume plays into it.
Yeah.
I'm going to do what you do with costumes. I'm going to look on screen one day and be like, that's a Lara Deluca.
Yeah. Amazing.
Before I even know it's you. Yes. Period costume, futuristic costume, or contemporary? What's your favorite to design?
I will say contemporary. Because
of your fashion background?
Yeah, and also because I love creating things that don't exist yet. So I want it to be iconic. And not to say that period costumes aren't iconic and that some don't exist already, but I think that just like, like I guess you can draw inspiration from anywhere, but I think just like creating the character that like doesn't necessarily exist yet. I think that making that is just like something super cool because with period I haven't done a lot and I haven't really had the opportunity to. We don't really get a lot
well, the stuff that had, like, I mean, the old Western, the Peabody, the Pinkertons was about I think the only one that really and like maybe some Anna Green Gables at some time, like nothing crazy.
And I think it's just like my fear is just like I don't want to take too much inspiration where someone's like she copied that and I'm like no, but I like imitation is the best form of flattery to an extent, but I think it's just like the contemporary thing because I love the challenge and I love the like what can I do to make this iconic kind of thing, and I find that I can do that the best with contemporary. That makes
sense because you're always like Victorian. We're so far removed from Victorian or Western or medieval that it's whatever you watch is going to be already done, right? So making a new thing, I like that. What actor and actress would you love to costume? Someone that you watch. Who would you like to be? I always want to make that person wear my shit.
I would say Bradley Cooper.
Yeah. Sure.
Bradley Cooper. I would say Cate Blanchett. I like her a lot. I just thought about this the other day too, like who, like my like idols and stuff like that.
This is lightning. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah,
real thought out.
Yeah, no. I think I like those two are probably the first that come to mind. Yeah, I think so.
Sure.
Yeah.
I loved his outfits in Star is Born.
Oh my God.
Made me want to be a rock star pretty quickly.
Oh yeah, that was like fantastic.
Yeah, and that super fucking hard tan he had just made
Ooh,
everything.
I know.
Yeah, I think we were both crushing on that, man.
Yeah.
One piece of clothing you can't live without when you're working on set. What do you always have on you? Do you sweater, scarf?
Like on an actor
No,
or
on
like
you.
on me?
On you.
Ooh. Since we're in Winnipeg, I would say like a parka. And even in the cold evenings and when we do night shoots, like we are still wearing our parka.
Sure. Yeah.
So I would say that, and some hot shots, like the like hand warmers.
Yeah. No, that's a Winnipeg starter kit right there.
Yeah.
Craziest thing you've had to find or make for a costume?
Ooh.
Like, what are the depths you've gone to be like if we looked on screen, you'd be like, I found that in a bargain bin, or like you made it out of something and nobody would know.
Well, like I will say, like the clown costume, that fabric was found in Toronto,
yeah, sure.
in like the back of like a fabric store. That
was made for a couch.
That was pretty epic. I would say, oh my God. I think like it more about like things that I would like take one garment and take another garment and like put them together. I've done before, which I find that I've done like on my feet, like thinking, because if I can't find it, I'm like, how can I do this? So I'll take like a jacket and like Frankenstein it and make my own jacket. So those are the kind of things that
You're like a Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, you have to be with sewing, and like you're playing with things that sometimes don't necessarily play well together.
Yeah.
I would gather.
And in Violent Night, Candy Cane, like the one who wore the dress and she had like the knives, her little head piece, like fascinator, is actually a styrofoam that I glittered Mod Podged myself.
There you go.
So that was a craft that I did, and it looks awesome.
Right? And you don't know what you don't know.
No.
And that, like, I mean, what is it? There's like a contraption on Mandalorian that Favreau and everybody sat down and showed after. It's just a trash can from like IKEA that they like added some stuff to, but it looks like this high tech device from a galaxy far, far away, and like you don't know.
Well, actually, the I'll say on Violent Night, the production designer Roger Byers, he made the safe like that. They do this kind of like this shot where they show the safe kind of spinning.
Yeah.
And the middle of the safe is actually the end of a Gatorade bottle.
See?
Spray painted silver.
Because it works.
Yeah.
That's what and the more I talk to film technicians and department heads and creatives, that's exactly what it is. It's like it doesn't have to look good. It just has to look good on camera, right? And the camera is looking at something completely different than a Gatorade cap in your hand.
Exactly.
So if it plays, it fucking plays.
I know. Yeah.
Favorite fabric to work with or material?
Ooh.
Leather, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, you know what? I do like working with leather. I think it's so cool.
It's timeless.
It is timeless, and it makes for such a. I like to add it in where I can. There is one costume in Clown that I won't even say. You'll have to see it.
Okay, that's the whole point of today, listeners. Go see that.
And there's something pretty epic about it, but that's all I'll say.
That's the way to bury an Easter egg. Coffee order on a 5 a.m. call.
Ooh, definitely like a vanilla latte.
Triple shot espresso.
Oh yeah.
Kick the tires and get going.
Yeah.
Last one. If you weren't a costume designer, what would you have been? You think? Would you wrote books like your mom? Would you?
fun.
Worked in family businesses like we talked about before.
I probably would be like a stylist, or my friends kind of say I'm like the Jill of all trades. So like I am creative in a lot of ways. I had a cake business at one point, which is wild. I made specialty cakes.
Like the kind that like
wedding cakes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But like, are we talking like it looks like a kid's, I don't know, it looks like Spider-Man, that kind of stuff?
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
So like Cake Boss kind of shit.
Yeah, Cake Boss stuff. And I actually met him.
Oh, really?
Which is kind of kismet, because like that right after I met him, I'm like, this is what I'm supposed to do, you know? But obviously it was short-lived.
Apparently you needed to meet Doug first.
Yeah,
and
apparently.
Then figure out.
And then, so yeah, there was that. And then like, maybe like a stylist or a tattoo artist, probably.
Sure.
Yeah.
Art's art. It's just whatever medium, right?
Yep.
Well, listener, if you haven't been convinced by this conversation, see Clown in a Cornfield and watch Violent Night if you haven't seen it. You've got all the behind the scenes. I've been saying that all week about you.
Behind the scenes. I love that.
Behind the scenes. Like, I'm like, I'm trying to be more punny in I don't have kids. I have cats, but I'm like, that doesn't stop me from making dad jokes, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
I encourage you to go see it. If you're from Manitoba, now you know that there's another amazingly talented creative in a department making movies here in this province. That's basically the whole reason we talk to local, is no one knows, right? When I talk about this, I'm like, you should really listen to our show.
Exactly.
Ignore the dipshit comedy and just focus on the interviews. You'll be surprised at what's rolled through here, who's been here, who works here all the time and makes great shit.
Yeah.
Is there, I think December 12th is Silent Night, Deadly Night?
Yeah.
Okay, so December 12th, Silent Night, Deadly Night. May 9th, Clown in a Cornfield is in theaters everywhere. Eli Craig working with Lara Deluca. Come to a trivia night. We've got one May 29th, guys. Link in the show notes. It's Star Wars trivia because it's Star Wars month.
Ooh.
So I'm going to be in cosplay. I got a Obi-Wan Kenobi robe. And
no way.
I got my lightsaber up there
Great.
from Galaxy's Edge. Yeah, I'm that guy.
Oh no, that's awesome.
Yeah, so if you're a Star Wars fan, we'd love to see you there. A lot of people from film do come. Some people from Farpoint come.
Yeah, I have been to one before, but it wasn't. It was more like pop culture, I think. Yeah.
We you can scream out and call out quotes and get involved in the show with us.
Yeah.
Like, we're very interactive.
Oh, nice.
So the last one, give you an example. Every time someone said something even adjacently perverted, the audience was like, that's what she said, because it was an office theme night. Right?
I love it.
So by the end of the night, I think we had 47 that's what she said's, and I was eating Jell-O off the stapler. It was,
oh my goodness.
It was fantastic.
There has to be a horror night.
We are.
Oh, we are?
We are.
Okay.
We're gonna be at Little Brown Jug in October, more than likely.
Oh, of course.
And it will be a 4-round Halloween horror themed trivia night.
Oh my gosh.
I'll let you know when tickets go on sale. Laura, thank you.
Thank you.
Spending an evening with me.
Yes, I always love talking about this stuff.
I would love to have you back. Just if you want to come on the show and just talk film with us.
Yeah.
Bring a friend, bring someone from your department. I'd love to have you back on.
Oh my God, absolutely. I'm sure there'll be many people who'd love to.
Just tell all your friends in the film world you did the show. They know me. We'll talk to them at work.
Yeah.
And then be like, hey, I haven't been on that. Someone's going to say that. They're like, I've heard of that show. Tell them, bring them back.
Okay, I will. We'll do.
You can be my champion here. Yes. Listener, if this is your first time, thank you so much for giving us a shot, I should say. If you're shouting at me, even better. We would love to hear from you. So on this episode or any other episode, we have a voice line that you can leave questions on. You can interact with us. No one ever does it, but somebody might one day. So when you do, there's a place for you. We'll put you on the show. We'll make a scene about it. It'll be a good time. If you haven't listened to us before, go backwards. There's 281 of these. There's debates. There's roundtable discussions. There's other interviews. I've done dumb shit on this show that's worth laughing over. All of Laura's information will be in the show notes. So if you want to reach out to her, if you have a question, if you're a costume designer listening to this, I'm sure you're more than welcome to have someone reach out to you if they've got a question about all your skills and shit. Yeah, you are. You're cool. I got nothing else with you. So I have been Micheal Petrow. This has been
Lara Deluca.
And we have been your Real Debaters this week. Thanks, kids. Watch all the movies. Say bye, Laura.
Bye.
if you have any problems, dial information. Thank you for calling.